Yes, everybody, welcome back to the Irish Hotspur. Jack here. We are going to be talking about, of course, yesterday's game against the likes of Sunderland, which personally was a strange game for me. I felt like Spurs played quite well for the majority of that game. Some people said we didn't play that well in the second half. I tend to disagree. I thought we kind of actually pushed for that second goal pretty much until 60th, 70th minute sort of stage. And then maybe Sunderland started to grow into it. But it was a strange game in that I'm not Thomas Frank's biggest fan at the moment. I do feel like he should be under serious pressure, if you ask me, to get results soon and also to improve the style of play. But that was one of those games where it didn't really fit that narrative, in my personal opinion, which is why we get other people's opinions. But it was a strange one for me where I did feel like we saw attacking intent. We just saw players just continually waste chances and opportunities. I felt like they won the ball back in really good areas. They had some good transitional moments, but they were very wasteful with those transitional moments. If anything, and I haven't said this too much about Frank, this season, which is why I'm not going to give him that much of a benefit of the doubt. But I felt like it was actually kind of similar to Ange Postecoglou's games from last season and maybe even his first season as well, where you kind of feel like you're on top of the opposition for the majority of the game, but you've never actually put them away, which then always leaves the door open for any solid Premier League side. Any Premier League team is fully capable of punching you in the mouth, sucker punching you with an equalizer or maybe something even worse if you don't really close that door by giving yourself that cushion, by giving yourself that insurance. A good example would even be I feel like Man City against Chelsea the other night. I thought Man City, kind of similar to us, I thought they were on top of the opposition for the majority of the game, but they just wasted chances continually throughout. And then any good team, even any okay team, is capable enough of fastening one or two opportunities towards the end of the game to potentially get back into it. And I felt like that's what Sunderland had done to us. I don't think this is a narrative that has happened too much under Thomas Frank. I think there are plenty of games that you could point to where the tactics were wrong, the setup was wrong, the players he picked were wrong. I don't really know if that was one of those games, or this last game was one of those games, which is why I'm a little bit torn on what to talk about, what to say, because I try to be fair at least, as much as I might have my strong opinions about Thomas Frank at the minute. I also want to be fair and not, pretend like, this is a great example of why he isn't good enough. I actually thought this was a game that was more on the players than necessarily the manager. But like I said, I'm not going to just completely absolve him, of all, you know, blame or anything like that because at the moment in time, Spurs are in an absolute terrible, terrible run of form, and we should be much higher in the league, in my opinion. I'm not saying we should be in fourth or fifth, but where we are and with how competitive the Premier League has been this season, I feel like there's a better chance for Spurs to be a little bit higher up in the league, considering just how much everybody seems to be wobbling in the league right now. And one of the things I do want to talk about and sort of center a lot of the discussion around potentially tonight, but then again, will be mostly about what people want to dive into, what sort of rabbit holes they want to get into. But one of the main things I do want to be chatting about is just the fact that Enzo Maresca and Ruben Amorim are both gone. Two teams, Manchester United and England, that are at the top of the table right now and have been pretty competitive throughout the season. The fact that they're both gone, does that put further pressure on Thomas Frank? Maybe not from the board, but especially from the fan base, I wonder. And also, will the board eventually have to sort of answer that type of pressure, either by backing him this January, coming out and saying that we really believe in this guy? I think we'll be asking if that's the mistake, if he's really the right guy that they should be backing. But I do wonder if you guys agree with me that Enzo Maresca and Ruben Amorim going only, I think, creates further pressure and difficulties for the board and the club to back Thomas Frank because Man United and Chelsea, we all know that they have very high aspirations, and if they're sacking their guys who've done pretty well for themselves, I think that only screams pressure really for Thomas Frank. We'll be running the fan show a bit differently. Maybe some of you guys who aren't fan show members, I put out a post for them. We're going to go back to the original format, which is going to be more people individually, one-on-one, one at a time. We'll try to be as efficient as possible and letting people get their say, but then not have anybody go too much longer than another so that we could sort of cycle through the guests quickly so that maybe people don't have to be on stream the whole time or anything like that. It's just something that we're testing out again with the new year, new ideas, new ways of doing things. We're trying to be adaptive. We're trying to be progressive. if you will. But without further ado, I'm going to greet some people in the chat and we're going to get the show underway. Unfortunately, Dave is sick. He was powering through the last watch along in the pre-match buildup. And then I think towards the end of it, I think he really started to actually not feel too well. And I think he was saying that he had maybe a flu before that he felt like was going away, but now I think it's kind of returned, to some extent. So he's seen the doctor today, just to make sure everything's all right. And then he will hopefully be back with us, this Wednesday for the Bournemouth game, which I think is another game with massive pressure for Thomas Frank. I'm also not feeling too well, if you can tell by my very croaky voice at the minute, but under a heavy dosage of cough drops and vitamin C, I'll hopefully be able to power through this one. Dermatron has upgraded the membership. Good to have you back with us, Tron. He will be one of the first guests that we have on the show, as well as Eddie, who's in the house. Good to see Paolo Moratti. Hope everything's all right with you. The one and only Kevin Ferguson. Big up to you, my friend. Dan Coys, how are you, Dan? Hopefully you're enjoying your start to the new year. The one with Spurs hasn't been too hot, to be fair. It's been two draws. I would say the last game was relatively entertaining, in my opinion, but that Brentford one, I mean, geez, what a terrible way to start the season with arguably one of the most boring I don't even know if it was football that was being played in that game versus Brentford. It felt like the ball was in the air more often than it was actually on the floor or on the ground. Paolo Moratti saying, I hope we can sack Frank after the Dortmund game, put pressure on him to qualify for the top 8 for the round of 16 Champions League and get a new manager. I think it would be a decent feat for him to qualify in that top 8, because I'm not sure if any of us were expecting it. I think it was just about sort of qualifying, in the playoff rounds, no matter what. But if he were to find a way to qualify for the top 8, I think that would be actually quite impressive. But we've also had, in my opinion, a pretty decent set of opponents, where it's not been too difficult, like maybe compared to other teams. Like I feel like Bodo Glimt away was probably one of the tougher ones. Dave might disagree on that one, but I think that was always going to be a tough game. But we played atrociously in it. We got absolutely played out the park, which is not what I was expecting. Monaco away, it's not a difficult place to go in terms of atmosphere. It's a very posh crowd and not necessarily known for the French ultras or anything like that. And we got absolutely played out the park that day. One of the worst performances, in my opinion, of the season. Somehow, some way, through the brilliance of Vicario, we ended up getting that draw. But there are a lot of games I felt like we actually could have done better with, and maybe that top 8 would be far more achievable or realistic or maybe expected for Spurs had we played a bit better in some of those games. And there's been some other ones I think we got away with, like even the Villarreal game, one of the first ones of the season for this Champions League campaign, kind of a bit like the Brentford game, one of the most boring and also just difficult games to really watch, to be fair. Limpy Down Under saying it was a good performance, but it is still failed. That's kind of where I'm at, where I actually have to be fair to Thomas Frank, and I would say he got things right. It was a good performance. I'm kind of in the camp where I felt like the players let him down that game, but I haven't been able to use that excuse for him that many times this season. So I'm not going to just automatically just write it off for him and just give him the benefit of the doubt. I do feel like there are plenty of games, like I just even mentioned in the Champions League, where I do feel like there should be some question marks around the manager. Derek Hutchinson, really good to see you. Always good to have you in here with us. We also have Anthony Lynch. Big up to you, Anthony. Hopefully everything's good with you. Saying Frank next, TikTok, TikTok. I agree, man. I agree. I know some people might not, but I agree. Progressive Insurance, says Paolo Moratti. Probably some of the best ads if you're an American in the business, actually. Progressive Insurance. Phil Coy's, always good to see you, sir. Hopefully everything's all right with you, my friend. Dennis Daly saying Frank does not know how to change, even if he wants to. Come on, you Spurs. Dan Coy saying, remember watching non-league football and the ball spends most of the time in the air rather than playing to feet, as it's a different style. It was like the Brentford game, exactly. We were playing non-league football. I'm not even sure what sport we were playing against Brentford. Phil Coy saying there's been a lot of below par performances this season. That's what I'm saying, Phil. Like, I have to be fair to Frank, though. I wouldn't say that was a below par performance. I think that was absolutely on the players, especially that forward line. Richarlison, I think, really the one I would put a lot of blame on for not being clinical and not being uh, in a way efficient with the chances that they were given. There were so many good opportunities that we should have done so much better with. There were times when we had 3-on-2s, 4-on-3s, and we're not even registering a shot, from it. Ends up being played behind someone. The opposition then catches up and is able to get back into shape. Whereas you watch other teams, they're so much more deadly with the chances that they're given. Even like Brian Bobby for Sunderland, that chance that he got, absolutely dispatched it. And they had like one or two maybe opportunities, I felt like, the whole game, and they were able to take that one very efficiently. So David Hall, pick up everyone. If they want to keep Frank, they need to go out and buy some top players, which it seems those upstairs are holding back in spending, right? They haven't done anything so far. And we're already at January 5th, and they've sold Brennan Johnson. As much as I'm okay with them selling Brennan Johnson, that means you have to get your act together and start bringing in people quickly. We need to stop sacking managers, says Google Eyes. Dropkick your teacher saying the moment that header went off the post, I knew that we weren't winning this game. I don't know. Like, I was trying to sort of manifest, the narrative by saying, if we aren't putting away these chances, like we need to at some point, sort of pull our finger out and put some of these chances in the back of the net. Because if we don't, like any team in the Premier League, you will be punished. And I actually think it was quite fitting that Man City were guilty of the same thing, where I actually thought they could have won that game against Chelsea 3-4-0, really. And just they never put them away. And that means they're always going to be at it. And like in the last 10 minutes or so of a game like that, like what we just saw against Sunderland, if you're only 1-0 up and you've not really put the team away, they'll kind of get that belief that shit, like, we're still in this game. Might as well maybe try to push on and see if we can, create something and see if we can actually snag a point, do a bit of a daylight robbery. So, and I think we saw that on 2 occasions, both with City and Chelsea, and then ourselves with Sunderland. The Big D, going to go to you saying, if Thomas Frank continues in the same way, I hope he is gone very soon. Last game I enjoyed was the Man City game back in September. That's awful for any manager. I mean, I think we have a question on this, but his winning record right now is the second worst of any Spurs manager at this moment in time, next to Christian Gross, which says everything that you need to know. But enough blabbering for me. Good to see you, Wayne Bonner, as well. Really do appreciate your support, my man. 2 managers sacked in less than a week. I wonder if Frank's worried or laughing. I think he's probably definitely more on the worried side. But we're going to get this show underway, everybody. Smash the like button, please, as you come in. Feel free to give your comments, your questions, or anything. We'll try to put them up on screen. If you want to stop the show or support the channel, like Artist T has, Dropkick Your Teacher, really do appreciate it. And if you do want to join the conversation, have a little one-on-one sesh, have a little rant, come on, and would love to have you. And you can do that by becoming a fan show member. We're going to bring on Jerome, though. We're going to get things started off with him. Jerome, how you doing, man?
Pretty good, Jack. Pretty good, I guess. Well, considering.
Yeah.
But yeah.
You see the question in the title, dude. Like, Maresca and Amorim sacked. I, if anything, think that only adds more pressure onto Thomas Frank, doesn't it? Because those are teams at the top of the Premier League table. Maybe they left under weird circumstances because they kind of said some things that almost Antonio Conte kind of style, like almost made difficult on the board. But if anything, I think that's only going to make our fan base sort of scratch their heads more of, why is this guy still in the job if these managers are leaving?
Yeah, definitely. Look, to be honest, it's like as soon as I saw like Maresca, Amorim sacked, and we are like really high up in the league, I'm like, this was our team with like ambition. But it's, well, considering what they said as well, it's like Maresca, Amorim, they had their rent like Conte as well. So obviously we were not going to last long. That's why we were pretty much gone. But at the same time, Jesus Christ, I'm like, the dross we've been seeing week in and week out with this team, and it's like, those are sackable offenses, all of them. To be honest, if Daniel Levy was here, he would be gone. He would be gone already. I can guarantee you that he would be gone already because he would not have this going on for much longer. I mean, like, even though as much as like all the other managers, they all had a good first season, all of them. Even Nuno had a good start and then dropped like a fly, the same as this one, as Frank now. But my goodness, like Mourinho took us from 16 to 6. No, sorry, 14 to 6. Conte took us to 4th. Ange took us to 5th. Yeah. Even though we like a lot of people hate him so much, he took us to 5th in his first season. Now we're 13th, man. 13th.
Do you think people are afraid of like a managerial change? Like that's what I'm also getting the vibe of. But it's like there's proven evidence that if you do make a change, sometimes that can save your season.
Definitely, a change will save our season this time because this can't go on, Jack. This cannot go on. It's like I'm not. To be honest, with the results of the game, I don't have an issue. My issue is the actual performance we can see on the pitch. This is horrendous, man. Week in and week out, I'm just watching boring,
Yeah.
boring football every single time, man. I can't stand this. Like, as much as people are going to go and say, oh, but do you want to go back to edge football, kamikaze football, where we were getting battered every single week? We were not getting battered every single week. Yes, we were losing games, but we're not getting battered. This is no better. This is no better. This is even worse. Worse.
Isn't that kind of
Worse.
funny that last game, though? Do you agree with me that last game was a bit like an Ange game in that we were kind of on top of them for the majority of the game, and then we
Look,
just got sucker punched at
where,
the end, which I
yeah,
haven't said
where
much about
I,
Thomas Frank, which I think is kind of funny.
yeah,
That was probably one of the only case examples I could say that would have been Ange in charge, and I would not have been surprised, actually.
I don't,
Yeah, that kind
I don't know, Jack. Look, the first
What did you
half,
think of the
I thought
performance?
it
Do you think
was
we played well? Yeah.
the first half. I think we had the best performance of all season. It was a really, really good first half, man. Like, the only thing that, again, wasteful attacking. That's the same issue we had in the range. The wasteful attacker at the front that can't score a goal. But it was a very good performance. That first half was a very, very good performance. I really did enjoy that. Halftime come. What was told in that dugout, man? What did he tell those players for them to come out of this, out of that? And suddenly the performance just dropped. It's like something just sucked, just like, just sucked the belief out of it. They
Uh-huh.
just all that intensity we had before just got sucked out of him. And we just like looked like we didn't want to play anymore, and just like, just went with the movement. To me, it's like it felt like it was pre-designed. It's something that was told to them, and then suddenly we just stopped. We just tried to hold to that 1-0, and then of course you're going to get punished. In the Premier League, who said you can hold a 1-0 win? You can't. If you have like a proper team that comes like Sunderland, as much as we want to say they are a good team, and you will get punished if you can't concentrate. And Romero, all the things Romero want, I don't know what was wrong with him in this game, but those passes, all the things he's done, it's like, yeah, it did cost us the game, but you need to be focused in those games. You need to be like concentrated. And 1-0 is never in the Premier League a safe score. To me, it's always the same thing. You need to be at least 2 or 3 up, especially with Tottenham. You need to be 2 or 3 up to be saying, we are safe. Then we can relax it a bit. 1-0 cannot. But yeah, man, it's like, it was a good performance for this game. But at the end of the day, did we really work that goalkeeper, that Sunderland goalkeeper? Did we really work him? I don't believe so. One lucky goal, again, from the corner, the same as Crystal Palace. But apart from that, did we really work him that much? No, we did not. We did not really do much, man.
Should we have though? Like, I felt like we had the ball in some really good areas, right?
We
And we
had
won
the
the ball
ball. We
back.
had the
Like,
ball
how
in
many
really good
times did we win the
areas.
ball back high up the
Yeah.
pitch and then nothing comes of it?
But we did nothing out of it. It's like so many things. Like, we tried on holding the ball so long, could have just free it for Moani, and it was free to go, man. It was just like, we could have it 1-on-1 and everything. But again, it's like, I don't understand, man. I don't understand with this team. What's wrong? What's happening? Yes, we could say the players are not good. I can agree that some of the players are not that great, but we can't just go, it's the players, man. It's something to do with players and managers. Something is not going, he's not inspiring them. I can guarantee you, he's not inspiring them. He's not making them like do runs, making them believe that we can win games or things like that. I just don't understand it.
Do you
He's not a
agree
good fit.
do you agree or disagree with Sean? Because I think he's saying, I don't think that's accurate. We had some pathetic forward play that killed all our momentum in the second half. Do you think we did have maybe opportunities in the second half to put them away and we just didn't?
Yeah, but what opportunities? Like, like I said, again, did we really work the goalkeeper, Sunderland goalkeeper? How we make him made amazing saves, saying, wow, he's the man of the match. No, we did not. We did not. We could say we had good forward intention, but to what end?
Yeah, no
We
end
had
product.
nothing. We had no end product. We did nothing with it. It's like, it could, and to be honest, this is a really weakened Sunderland team. 6 or 7 players are in the AFCON. So let's be real here. That was a weakened Sunderland
It's
team.
true.
We
Yeah.
should have, and we definitely should have taken advantage of that and try to win this game. But
Yeah.
again, all we did was nothing. Nothing. We did
Yeah.
absolutely nothing out of this. And I can't defend this. I'm sorry. As much as I want to, it's like I would say the first half was good, but the second half was just atrocious, man. We just stopped playing football. And as much as people want to say, oh, we had like good intention, good try to go forward, but we did nothing with it. We didn't work the goalkeeper. We didn't say like anything we did was dangerous. Anything we did was like we worked that goalkeeper to say we were almost there to score a goal.
Yeah.
Nothing. We
Yeah.
did nothing out of it. So end of the day, to me, it's 3 games that showed me nothing. Absolutely nothing. That win against Crystal Palace was just a fluke. Lucky goal again from corner, a lucky deflection to Bergvall, and okay, good. Great job. After that, nothing in this game. Showed me nothing. The only chance we had was Crystal Palace was gassed. They were gassed. They played midweek and that team was gassed. Okay? So that's the only saving grace we had with this. Don't talk to me about saying we were good defensively and things like that. Mateta was giving them a hard time. He was giving
Oh no,
them a hard time, but
yeah, we
you
were
could
better
really see.
defensively, I think, against Sunderland than we were against Crystal Palace. Crystal
Yeah,
Palace could have put
definitely
two or
better.
three past us. But
Yeah,
final question here, Jerome. I mean, do you
yeah.
think he's got to go now, or would you still give him a few more games?
The only issue is who do we take? To be honest, if you have the chance, I would say get rid of him now and let's try Maresca, Enzo Maresca. If we can back him and we can get him to play good football, why not?
Yeah,
I would go, yeah, get rid now because this can't go on, man. This cannot go on. Things are worse with the fans. Fans have given up. For me, you have to be telling me stop watching
yeah,
and do something else.
yeah,
It's bad, man. It's
yeah.
really, really bad. Yeah.
No, I'm in a similar boat where I do feel like if there is a really good manager available, I think you just gotta cut your losses and just bring him in. So I'm in the same boat as you there, Jerome. I
Yeah,
appreciate you,
yeah.
man. Thanks for getting me
So
started,
good.
and hopefully have a
Not a
good
problem.
rest of your week. And I'll see you back
Yeah.
Wednesday for
Yeah.
all
I
the
see you again.
craziness for Bournemouth. Appreciate you, Jerome. See you next time.
Go. Thank you. See ya. Bye.
And big up to Jerome for getting us started. And then we have this from Moondog, member for 49 months, saying this is more than Thomas Frank. We are rotten from top to bottom. I'm a little bit torn on this, Moondog, because last season, a lot of people were blaming the manager, saying that, which I think was true, to be honest. Like, I wasn't even Ange's biggest fan. That's where I feel like actually I'm quite neutral about Ange and Thomas Frank. I wasn't Ange's biggest fan. I'm not Thomas Frank's biggest fan. And with Ange, though, a lot of the narrative was about him not getting the most out of the players that he had and him sort of tactically his crazy high lines, and everything like that were being criticized. His nature of how he was playing was injuring the players, et cetera, et cetera. We heard a lot of the reasons for why Ange was the problem. Whereas now this season, maybe rightfully so to some extent, but I do feel like it's interesting that now Thomas Frank is in charge and we're now saying, oh, the squad isn't good enough. It's like a 15th, 16th level squad when we haven't really lost, that many quality players. We lost an aging Sonny. And then, we brought in guys like Kudus, Chavi Simmons, Joao Polina. Like we've added some real quality, I think, to this team. And some of the guys that were there last season have only grown in experience and maturity, in my opinion, from after winning a trophy. So I'm kind of in a boat where I feel like we just have to ask questions of this manager. Is he truly getting enough out of what he has available really at this moment in time? And the fact that also his win rate is even lower than Ange Postecoglou's, to me says a damn lot because in such a short span of time, he's finding himself pretty much on Christian Gross levels in terms of winning percentage, which is just insanity to me. I just don't know if that's really defendable. And when it comes to like the board and the hierarchy, also now being blamed a lot. I mean, I understand it's like the Enoch ownership and everything, and they are trying to rebrand themselves, but I want to give them that chance to rebrand themselves, to maybe act differently to the likes of Levy and from how they behaved previously. So I think I'm not really in the camp, like maybe some are, to just throw a bunch of shade and cast on them because they've not even had a transfer window really to sort of, flex their muscles and show that they are different to maybe what we did previously. I understand it's a lot of the same kind of people. It's just now they're trying to make it sound like they're the Lewis family, not Enoch anymore. But I'm going to give them not necessarily benefit of the doubt, but I'm going to give them that trust at least that they are a man of their word and that they are going to do what they're saying because they are coming out with a lot of this. I don't know what you call it. Maybe it's a bit of propaganda, but they're coming out with a lot of stuff, these statements saying that they're going to back managers, that they're going to, use money in the transfer market, that they're going to sort of listen to the fans to improve fan atmosphere. They're doing a lot of talking, which is good, more than we ever got before. So I'm just going to see if they're actually going to live up to what they're saying. So I'm going to give them this transfer window and then the next summer transfer window to see if they're still the problem. I wouldn't be surprised if a year from now and I'm talking to you, Moondog, and that's easily still the case. But we're going to keep this show moving. Do really appreciate you guys. Thank you, Moondog, as well, for approaching 50 months of incredible support. Thank you, my friend. And we're going to move on to the Tron, Mr. Dermo. Dermo, how you doing?
Not too bad, Jack. How are you? Happy New Year to everyone in the chat and to yourself.
Happy New Year, Tron. I'm doing okay. I feel like I'm trying my best to make sense while I have a pretty bad cold at the minute. But
yeah,
with Spurs, it's tough because I just felt like that last game was a little bit of a fluke, really, where I actually thought we played quite well. Some people maybe think I'm being a bit generous by saying that we played pretty well, but it's not something that's said that often, I think, this season under Thomas Frank. There aren't too many games I could point to in especially consistent manner where we played really, really well, but then we didn't get maybe the points we deserved. That was actually something I often said under Ange, where I actually felt like we played really well, but then we just didn't get the points that we deserved from it. But that became too much of a common trend under Ange where you had to ask questions of him. But with Thomas Frank right now, Dermatron, I know you've said we need to show patience to the guy. I know you've also said that he needs to go. So where are you at after that last game with him?
Look, I'm still under the opinion he needs to go. But what do we do when he does go? Where do we go? Who do we bring in? Who do we we're in the middle of a transfer window. Do we back him and then sack him at the window if things don't improve? Or do we sack him now and just diss off the whole season? It's a difficult one to understand where to do because you're damned if you do and damned if you don't. I agree. Yesterday, the first half, I thought we were fantastic. I thought we were really good. We were attacking, and then the second half, we just dropped back, and gave Sunderland a bit more confidence in coming forward. They had a couple of chances before that. They hit the post, but had Davis took one off the line as well after Vicario went waving to somebody in the crowd. I don't know who he was waving to, maybe to a Sunderland fan. And then we hit the post, and I said it. I did say it in my own watch along. That's a warning. They're going to get one more chance. Will they take it? And they did take that chance.
Yeah.
Um,
Spot on.
I think Thomas Frank, for me, I did a show this morning. I got news last night that Tottenham are going to back him in the transfer window. They're going to give him the players that he needs. Then they're not in the mood of sacking managers. We look at Poch's first season. His first season was absolutely terrible. People wanted him gone by April, and he turned it around, and we went on this magical mystery tour over the next 4 years. I've always said it. I've been so stand on with this that I want him to prove to me he can be the man to take it forward. He's proved to me at the moment he can't. But the problem is, who do you replace him with? Which world-class manager is going to come to us? Who's going to come to us in the state we're in at the moment?
Would you rather wait
No
out
one.
on a world-class manager, which we know could be available in the summer, or
Yeah.
would you just bring someone in now, no matter what, and then make that decision in the summer?
I would wait out to the summer. I think there's no point doing it now. We spent so much money getting Thomas Frank and his team here. We can all be as angry with him. We can all be angry with the team. We can all want changes now. But how is that going to affect us? We're only, 5 points off the top 6 or the top 7? 7th place gets you Conference League. And I just feel, this is a window. This is Lewis's family. This is the other point as well. This is the Lewis family chance to prove to me that they are different than Daniel Levy. And at the moment, what are we? 5 days in, we've sold Brennan Johnson, who now we've lost Kudos now, I think, for a couple of weeks, and we've got no right-sided midfield. I mean, whose decision was to sell Brennan Johnson? You know, he wasn't the greatest player, but we needed him for the squad. So I just feel Tottenham from top to bottom are in a complete mess at the moment.
Do you think selling Brendan Johnson, though, was maybe an example of backing Thomas Frank? Because it's clear that the guy did not rate him. You know, it just
Yeah.
never really, he played him initially, but then after that, just never really gave him any more opportunities. Kind of like it almost he'd seen enough, and then they sold him on the first day of the window. So if we see, hopefully, a winger come in sometime soon, that would indicate that they probably are backing Thomas Frank.
Yeah, maybe so. I think the money they got for Brendan Johnson was probably too good to turn down, to be fair. If they left him to the summer, would they have got 30 odd million for him? Probably not. And I think then his price does, his valuation dips as the less game time he's getting. But for the last couple of games when he's come on, I think he's done pretty well. When he came on against Palace, I thought he did all right. Nothing spectacular, but just he did a job. But look, good luck to him. I wish him all the best. You know, I will say he was pretty fairly badly treated by some Spurs fans. I think a lot of them were patient with him, like myself. 2 years, I backed him for nearly 2 years, and I think what got me was when he won that Europa League, I think he thought he made it. And I think this is a good chance for him to move on and restart his career. We need to get somebody to come in that's going to be a bit like run down that wing, attack the fullback, and get across in. And that's what we need. We need wingers like Odegaard was yesterday, and Tell was doing it for a bit in the first half, getting down that wing and getting the ball into the strikers. So look, good luck to him. But yeah, I just think there's no plan. There's no plan to sell him players. Even when Thomas Frank was asked about it today, it's a case of, well, you know, I wish I had him now. Well, why sell him in the first place if you think you're going to need him?
I don't know. He's just been grilled about Brendan Johnson. You know, I think he's made it pretty clear in a lot of his answers that he just doesn't rate the guy, but they just keep asking him about it. It's not like he's going to totally just call him shit and throw him under the bus. You know, it'd be funny if he did, but I think he's respectful enough not to do that. Just on the game here, Dermo, I think there's a bit of a split. Some people feel like we didn't play all that well. Some people felt like we didn't. I agree with Q7 here, saying Poro's pass to Moani, his poor touch loses one of those chances. I remember that chance that Cole Moani had, and he had a terrible touch and then wasn't able to then get a good shot on goal from it. And then also he says the fans' favorite Richarlison is incapable of chipping a ball to Moani. Them chances in a clinical attack would be taken. Would you agree with that there were good enough chances that a better team would have absolutely dispatched?
Oh, yeah. We had our chances in that first up. And that ball by Richie, all he had to do was hit it first time. There was a gap between the two plays. He could have put it through there or even just chip it and bend it round. And Moroni had to do either take it down in his chest and then have a shot or take it on the volley. You know, the 2 chances. And I just don't get it. Yesterday was so frustrating. It was so frustrating. We sat back in that second half to trying to get out a 1-0 win. I am sorry. That is not Tottenham. That is not how we play. We had that under Mourinho and under Conte, and we didn't like it very much.
Yeah.
And we're going back down to that again. It's really frustrating because on the one hand, right, you've got this terrible football we're watching, and we all want the manager out. But if you sack the manager, where do you go? Who do you bring in? Do you bring in another manager? Then the players we bought in the summer, are they good enough for this manager? Then you sort of back to square one, what we've been doing for the last 25 years. So at some time, we've got to stick by a manager, go through the rough times and see what happens. But I don't think Thomas Frank's that man. But what else can you do? Who else is out there?
Well, I think that's the difficult twist we find ourselves in, which we just spoke about a little bit earlier, right? Which is if you sack him now, that means you do have to bring in somebody. But then there are potentially much better candidates available in the summer. And it's also more convenient for a manager to be brought in for the summer because they can pick the players they want to bring in, pick the players they want to get rid of. They can also as well work on the training ground a lot more. And that's all more beneficial. Whereas if you're kind of thrown into the dumpster fire straight away as a manager, that can be quite tough. Look at even Ruben Amorm, for example, right? He had to sort of take on Man United mid-season, and I wonder if that in some way did hinder his ability
Yeah,
to sort of, change things in the manner that he wanted. But now he's gone, and I feel like with Maresca going too, it only puts further pressure really on Thomas
it
Frank.
does.
Dermo, any final words
Mhm.
that you have? And also, I'm going to plug your channel. Anything that you want to get off your chest that I didn't let you?
Um, Look, yeah, it's just an important month for Spurs. I think it's an important month for the Lewis family. It's an important couple of games for Thomas Frank. I do feel though, if we do go out to the FA Cup on Saturday to Villa, I do feel I don't think Thomas Frank will be around much longer.
Yeah,
Because then what else have we got to do? It's just
I
bringing
agree.
another manager, hopefully to get a Conference League place. I think that's what we're looking at, Conference League football. And I think if we don't get that, then I think serious changes have to be made to the squad. But whoever we bring in has to be for the long term. We can't keep doing this, chopping every 18 months. When it gets rocky, then sack the manager. And I agree with Jerome. If Daniel Levy was here, I think Thomas Frank would have been gone 3 games ago. I do believe that. So yeah, thanks for having me on. And Dave, I hope you feel better, bud. And I hope you feel better too, Jack. And yeah, come over to the HFC till I die. I had a really good month last year, gained a lot of new subscribers. So yes, if you like what I have to say, join me in the gang over there. And yeah, on the way to 3K. Yeah, 3K. So I'd like to get there as soon as possible. Thank you very much.
No, really good call in, Dermo. I think the time, from what I can tell,
Yeah,
flew by actually, looking down at the clock here. So that did a very good job to cover lots of things in that period as well. So appreciate you, sir. And I'll
no,
see you next time. And hopefully Wednesday, we're talking about a win instead of
yeah,
more of this
hopefully.
craziness.
Fingers crossed. Fingers
Fingers
crossed. See you
crossed.
later, Jack.
Appreciate you, Tron. Thank you,
Yeah,
sir.
see you later, bud.
Big up to the Tron, everybody. Do subscribe over to THFC Till We Die, please. Sounds like he had a good last month, and hopefully we can have a good start to the new year for him. Super Yud saying we've gone 8 hours without scoring from open play, and we sell a proven goal scorer. We need better, but he definitely deserved a place in the squad. I disagree personally about Brennan Johnson. I don't think he was ever good enough. I think it's actually more credit to Ange Postecoglou for getting the most out of him, actually, and realizing his strengths and his weaknesses. I think since Thomas Frank has been put in charge, I don't think the system that we play really suits Johnson. I think actually one of Johnson's most annoying, even though he couldn't take on his man, couldn't really cross the ball, had a terrible first touch. I think one of his most annoying attributes was he was also one of the laziest players out of possession in terms of working hard defensively for the team. And I wonder if that was actually a bit of a decisive factor for Thomas Frank, because you can tell with Frank, he is a defensive manager. He wants guys working hard, being able to sort of track back, help out fullbacks. He's that sort of type of manager that will not tolerate someone that's going to be sort of jogging around, maybe not putting in the full effort defensively. And I think Johnson under Ange and under Frank is just one of those guys. He seems to kind of just sort of preserve himself to, make that long busting run so that he can maybe put in a tap in at the back of the net. And just seems to be a guy that doesn't really seem that keen on really running hard. I think with the fact that Kudus runs harder than him, even though Kudus on the ball and with the ball is a far better player than Johnson, I think says a lot actually about the guy's attitude. But people know how I feel about Johnson. I was never a fan of his, to be perfectly honest. So I'm not gonna totally act like everything I say is true about the guy. But I wasn't really that disappointed to see him go. Trinidad saying, evening Dermot and Jack, we should just bring in the kids for the rest of the season if they don't sack Frank, because no one else will come. At least they'll fight. And what Dermo and I were talking about, I think, is quite difficult. Where if you have really good candidates available in the summer to bring in to Spurs, it's kind of tough then, because you would have to then bring in an interim manager, which almost sort of is writing the season off, or do you then just give Thomas Frank no matter what, pretty much until the end of the season? I mean, it could get a lot worse though, and then I feel like maybe you do just have to bring in an interim manager. But that's why I wonder if Spurs might just have to wait out until the summer until better candidates are available. It's a tough position we're in. It's kind of a rock and a hard place. Derek Hutchinson saying Frank needs to change his ways right away or get the hell out of Tottenham Hotspur. Edelfan out in Germany saying, hi, Dermot and Jack, we have to win against Bournemouth or Frank is getting fired. I wonder, it's just with Enzo Maresca going, with Ruben Amorim going, and with just this terrible, terrible run of form, how long can you really take this? Like, I think also the players, the more that they lose as well, will start to not really believe in what he's doing, whether they like the guy or not. Maybe is a different story, but you're losing game after game after game, players will quickly, all of a sudden maybe change their mind about what they think about the tactics. Martin Knightsbridge saying, "Evening, Jacko. Yesterday was a proper look at the good and the bad of where we are. We can attack and play forward, but don't have the quality to put the game to bed and get the 3 points." I'm in the same exact boat as you there when it came to that game. But I don't know, Martin, if that's something that I can say about Frank much this season. I wouldn't point to that many games really where we absolutely, were on top of the team, the opposition for the majority of the game, but we just weren't putting away chances. That was absolutely something I felt like was quite common under Ange Postecoglou, but with Ange's lack of defensive tactics, it then meant we always were going to end up losing or end up just sort of getting sucker punched at some point. Whereas with Frank, the defensive solidity has started to, I think, weaken, which I think hasn't helped his case at all. But then we're not seeing attacking performances like we saw against Sunderland, in my opinion. I don't think we've seen it often enough to give him that benefit of the doubt. That's kind of where I'm at with things. Good to see Sean Daniel as well. And Q7 saying, unless you have someone in the team that can pick out a forward pass, Matters or a Kulu or a winger on the other side who can cross a ball, Johnson's useless. Don't let goals and assists blind you. I'm in a similar boat, to be honest, Q7, but we know how Johnson, he's like Marmite, very divisive player, and thinking the fan base. Some people absolutely worship the guy, whereas people like me on the other end of the spectrum, easily not one of my favorite players, to be honest, at Spurs. But, it is what it is. He's gone, and we have to make do with it. We're going to keep things moving, though. We're going to go on to Mia, see what she has to say. Hi, Mia.
Oh, hello, how you doing?
I'm doing okay. Like you said, I'm nursing a cold, but trying my best to make sense of Spurs. I mean, do you agree with me that that was a game that you wouldn't say was that typical under Frank, where I actually thought we played okay? We played pretty well for the most part, but it's not something I can say that often maybe about him this season. Do you think we deserve to
Well,
win?
no, because I think, right, for me personally, I felt like the first half was lost by the players and the second half was lost by Frank,
Mm,
because it was clear that his instruction was to back off and defend that lead, because we just kept getting deeper and deeper and deeper and basically trying to hit them on the counter a little bit, which we shouldn't be doing at home, Jacko. We should be putting on the pressure the whole time. Like, we're at home, man. And it is like Sunderland are a really decent physical team, but they're not the greatest football players, if that makes sense. They're very physical, beat you kind of down sort of team, as we saw when we started getting wound up with them, and we allowed ourselves to get drawn into that as well. But what I would say is I do think that he told them to protect that lead and it doesn't work. And I think and he didn't make changes quick enough, because you could see some of them players are getting tired, and he probably should have made changes and got some fresh legs in a bit quicker, where the Sunderland manager seemed to have got it just right to give his players a little bit more of a boost. And overall, after they scored that goal, it didn't really feel like we wanted to win the game. We
we
had
kind of crumbled after that. I agree.
we kind of crumbled, and then, like I say, it looked like they were going to win it more than us. So no, I don't think we deserved to win. And do I think it was all Frank? No, I think the first half, some of those shots were really powder puff. Like, some of them were absolutely ridiculous, like straight into the arms of the goalkeeper most of the time,
Yeah.
or out. When Porro tried to catch the keeper off his line. Yeah, cool, that's cool, and I don't mind trying something, but when you're in a game where you could see it as maybe a bit more of a tighter game, like, be a bit cleverer with it. We had a lot of the ball in that first half, but in the end, the stats for possession was equal, and
Yeah.
that shouldn't be the case at home. Like, we should be dominating a majority of the possession at home, but we backed off and backed off, and that showed in that second half. So, yeah, I think it was half and half for me in what
That's an
happened with
interesting
that
take.
game.
Yeah, so you felt like the players had enough chances in the first half to be 2-0 up to probably put away Sunderland, but
Yeah.
then they didn't. And then Thomas Frank didn't motivate the players, I think in your words, right, at halftime enough to sort of continue what they were doing to sort of grab that second and put them away.
Yeah, it felt like he just said, right, okay, we've got the lead, protect it, instead of saying, go out there, lads, and get more chances, and try and be a bit more clinical, because at times we have been a little bit more clinical, not always, not like that much, but we have been where we haven't had many chances, but we've taken those chances. And I felt like that let us down in that first half. But in the second half, I do feel like it was a bit of a case of boys protect that lead. And that's not what you want to see at home. And, you know, that's not the kind of football you want to be seeing. You want to see us going out for it and doing what we did in that first half. And when the players got tired, he should have made changes quicker. So to make sure we could keep carrying on that. I know the options are limited, and I do appreciate that obviously Kudos going off didn't really help because we had to use one of our subs sooner, a lot sooner than what obviously we expected. So I get it, but we did have some options to put a bit like more lively legs in Lucas Bergvall on maybe a little bit sooner, take Richie off a little bit sooner. You know, like it just felt like Richie was really like he's played a lot of games and it just feels like he could have been taken off. You know, I don't know, like it just
I've made
felt like maybe
I've made the joke that Richarlison is this year's Johnson in that he's technically scoring the goals, but his overall performances have not been that great. So like you look at there's so many stats to show that actually Richarlison's goals and assists this season, like he's one of the better strikers in the league right now. But it's like if you actually watch him, you know, he's not at all someone that you would believe that that was true, if you get what I mean. And I felt that way with Johnson too. It's like the goals and assists say one thing, but then when you actually watch him play, it sort of says another.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And like I said, I do feel like Richie was getting a bit like leggy, and I feel like that sometimes Frank doesn't look quick enough to think, right, he looks leggy, we need some energy, let's get Scarlett on, let's get Bergvall on and keep this going. But he didn't, and like I said, I feel like that didn't really help us. And the fact that we were doing a lot of defending, like we were doing a lot of running around because they had a lot of the ball. So
Yeah.
yeah, it wasn't the
Just
greatest. Like
what do you think of whether Spurs? Do you think like the clinical edge is down to the players or is it down to the manager? Because Peter Simons is saying you can't try to be clinical, either you are or you're not, which is an interesting thought, right? Like either the players are good enough to be clinical, or do you think it's down to the manager to try to make them more clinical?
I mean, when you look at the amount of goals that we are able to probably score, I think even with, because a lot of people say about the Sonny thing, adding Sonny's goals into what we don't have this year. Well, he never had him in the first place to start the season, so I don't really count those. He didn't actually have Maddison to start the season neither, but people are still counting those, or Dominic. So, but yeah, we had a lot, obviously, players last season that were a bit more maybe clinical in that way, but I do think that it is the manager's job to get the best out of these players. And I think that sometimes he does not. I feel like that he's got to be that manager that's got that person that motivates them. That's what he's paid the big bucks for, right? He's paid to put them in a system to make sure that they get the best out of that themselves, and he motivates them to do that. And at the moment, Jack, I don't look on that pitch and see any kind of system of what he's trying to do. Now, if we can't see it, I don't know anybody who actually can say what we are as a team right now. And if we can't, how the heck are the players meant to know if we can't see it? So
That's
the
fair.
fact is he's not going to get the best out of them that way, is he? Because he's not actually giving them maybe clear enough instructions on what he wants us to be. We're not a possession-based team. We're not a break and a quick like break on team. We're not a quick team where we pass quickly, play out from the back team. Like we're not. What are we? Like what
Not even
are
that
we?
defensively solid anymore, which is where I kind of am starting to lose
No.
faith in them. You know, if we were just like if we had more of those Brentford games where it was like, or even if like we had sort of a goals conceded like Arsenal, where it's like we're one of the lowest teams in the league in terms of goals conceded, but we weren't really creating enough goals, you could still then say, well, you know, we're able to see out games, you know, if we do grab that goal, right? But at the minute, I can't really even say that under Frank, you know, that we're capable of seeing out a game. I mean, last game against Sunderland would sort of prove that.
Yeah, no, it's true. And I think as well, see the games that we had when we had Jose, when we had Conte, that's all well and good as long as you're winning, Jacko. If you're not winning, man, people aren't going to put up with that kind of at home trying to defend a 1-0 lead.
I've
Let's
said the
be
same thing.
honest.
Yeah.
Like people aren't going to really, that ain't going to fly.
It's one or
And
the
it's
other.
already
Yeah.
evident, isn't it, this season, that that's not going to fly.
I think in their first season as manager, I've said pretty much the same thing. In your first season as a manager at Spurs in particular, it's either you deliver straight away a very nice brand of football that's very pleasing on the eye, that if you're not picking up results, at least the fans can point to that and say, well, we're playing some really nice stuff right now. Like, we're an enjoyable team to watch. So eventually maybe the wins will start coming. Or you're a manager that guarantees results, on a pretty much regular basis, even if it isn't that pretty to watch. At Spurs, I think we're a big enough club to sort of demand one or the other with a manager in his first season. And if he isn't doing either of those things, that's where I'm kind of at with Frank, where it's like, well, why would you give a guy that much time if he's really not capable of doing one or the other? He's not picking up results and he's not delivering a nice brand of football either. So what's there really to be patient for, if you ask me? That's kind of where I lay on that sort of patience conversation. But he has the second worst win rate of any Spurs manager, Mia, up until this point. He's not too far ahead of Christian Gross. So are these stats like this, kind of damning enough that maybe he's got to go? Or would you be willing to give him more time? Are you at the Frank out stage?
Do you know what? I'm getting there because I always said I'd give him enough rope. And I think if we lose against Aston Villa, which I can't see us, I don't have hope going into any games nowadays. And Jack, I'm quite a positive person, I'm never normally like this about the team, but I'm not quite that. I'm not positive about any sort of game we go into. I'm always a bit like, But with Villa, I think if we lose it, then what have we got? We've got like where we are in the table. I understand what Dermo was trying to say, that we're not that far off obviously being fifth or whatever it is people say, but we're also not that far from the bottom and being 17th again.
Yeah,
and a
seriously.
lot of people said that's unacceptable too. So I don't really get it is very close at the minute, and maybe we have to see how it pans out a bit more. But I don't think that time is going to be given to him if he carries on like this, because I personally don't look forward to watching games. I don't go to games. And Joe, how many people that don't now go to games because they're not dragging themselves out for hours out of their house, travelling in the freezing cold at the minute, because it's really cold at the moment in the UK, to go and watch a game. It's a long time spent out. It's a lot of money to go.
Yeah.
Not just a ticket, the trains and the food. If you want food drink, I don't particularly drink, but even if I want a drink and a little something to eat up London, it's expensive. And to get there for me is like expensive on the trains because I live quite far now. So the thing is, do I want to spend all that money just to go and watch that? Not particularly. And a lot of people feel the same. And that's not how you should feel about your football team. You shouldn't feel like that. You should be thinking, oh yeah, what's going to happen today? No, like even with Conte, at points it weren't great, but people still went and watched him. With Jose, obviously it was the lockdown for some, like when we had him. But I do feel like people still would have probably gone and watched it. I don't think that would have been a problem. But with this, it's a bit Nuno-esque, if you get what I mean. It reminds me a bit of Nuno, like that sort of time where people just lost all hope. It just feels hopeless and
there's not
pointless.
A lot dragging you into it. Yeah, there's not
Right.
anything you can point to that makes you want to go, really.
No, it just Joe. It feels like there's a Dementor. If anyone knows about Harry Potter, it just sucks the happiness out of your soul. All the happiness and joy has been sucked out of me about Tottenham at the moment, and that's like I say, and that's not how you should feel about your club. And I know a lot of clubs are in at the moment in a bit of disarray. We've got Chelsea sacking their manager. We've got Amorim being sacked at Man United. But they've obviously spoke out against the board, and that's why they got sacked, really, if you think about it, because they spoke out, and I'm not surprised that they got sacked. But with Frank, I don't think he's that kind of person to say anything, but I think that if it's not working, why stick with a manager and allow it to not work until the end of the season? Like, I don't understand that logic. Just for the sake of who are we going to get in next? We shouldn't be afraid if it's not working. We should just say, listen, this ain't working. And even if we have an upturn for a little bit toward like the rest of the season, that's something for us to get at least positive about, get fans back into the stadium cheering us on. I think that would do a lot of good if it continues this way.
Yeah, absolutely. Well said, Mia. I'm also at a tough point where, maybe you can wait out to the end of the season with maybe better managers being available, but at the same time, it's like you can't watch this continue on for that much longer. Like that would just be insanity to me as well. So I think it's tough, really. But give yourself a plug, please, Mia. I put your channel in the chat here, and thank you for coming
Yeah,
on.
no problem. Thank you for having me. Make sure you smash the like for Jacko as well. Obviously, doing this for his illness, it's not easy. Yeah, I've got my channel. It's like a teeny tiny baby channel, Tottenham's Lone Wolf. I just do pre-recorded videos and shorts, and I give my opinion as I always do. And I like to think that I'm always in the in like the replies as well, giving my opinions in the replies as well with people. I'm always happy to hear people's opinions because actually, what I would say to everybody is listen and subscribe to people you don't agree with, because I think that a lot of people will go, "Oh, I like what you got to say, and I'll subscribe," and that's really good, and I think that's great. But you should also go for people that you don't agree with, because I think it's interesting to hear other people's perspectives, and I think it makes you understand more as a person about how people might think and what they think as well. And I think it's good to sort of have that balance where you listen not just to the people you agree with, because otherwise it
Very well
becomes a bit of
said.
an echo chamber. And I'm all for having people. I've got plenty of people who disagree with me on my channel, like plenty of people who I have in my comments who don't agree with me, and that's absolutely fine. Like I don't see it as a big deal. I just think, yeah, that's cool. You think differently to me. The world would be a boring place if we all thought the same, right?
Okay. Yeah, totally agree, Mia. Thanks for coming on, and really
No
appreciate
problem.
you waiting and having a good chat with me. So hopefully I see you next time, and let's hope that Wednesday, like I said, we're just talking about a win instead of this craziness, like I said to Dermo earlier.
I hope so. Otherwise, I really don't know. Like I say,
Yeah.
it's just like that feeling every time I got off turning the TV on because
Yeah.
Tottenham are playing ain't a good feeling, and that's not
No.
good. Like I say.
No.
Well,
Appreciate you,
take
Mia.
care.
Thanks for coming on. See you next time.
Right, no worries. Like, bye.
Bye. Big up to Mia, everybody. Do subscribe to her channel, Tottenham's Lone Wolf. I have it in the chat there. We're going to keep things moving, though. Good to see Iceman, who I saw in the chat earlier in the house. Also good to see AK Shags. Hopefully everything's all right with you, AK. And we're going to bring on the Ed Meister, Mr. Eddie. Hey, Ed. Can you hear
Hey,
me?
Jack. I can hear you.
All right, sir. Let's get into it. What did you make of the last game? Did you get a chance to watch it?
I did, and I did watch the
I
whole game. It
described it
was
as an Ange
early.
game. Do you kind of agree with me? Like it's a
I
one where
would
we should have
actually. I
put them
would.
away, but we just didn't. But I haven't said that too often with Frank, to be honest.
I think I said the same thing. Said the same thing to a bunch of Spurs fans. That yeah, it was basically like watching Ange last season. We created all these chances or half created chances, and our players just didn't take it. And it cost us the game. Um, So that was like Mia said. In the second half, we were less likely the team to win it. When Sunderland scored that equalizer, I could see us going on to lose that game. I
Yeah.
actually felt it that I could
Agree.
see another goal coming here from Sunderland, and it wasn't going to be. We weren't going to snatch a win here. And I just felt really frustrated because it was a game that I thought we could have at least won. It's a game at home. Sunderland's missing six AFCON players, and they just aren't as strong as they would be. Had this been a full-fledged Sunderland team, I think we would have struggled so much more against this team, and we might have lost to this team the way we played in that second half. I just could see us ended up losing if they had the full squad. Thank God they didn't, and we got ourselves a draw.
Yeah. I think for me, the last game did sort of point out that maybe the players we do have aren't necessarily clinical enough when given the chances. Like for Charlison, like he just had multiple opportunities to not necessarily score himself every time, but actually to provide a good goal scoring opportunity for others, and he just refused to do it or just isn't capable to do it, or perhaps both, which is pretty concerning. Moani, as good as Moani has been, he had one really good chance to sort of set himself up to score, wasn't capable of doing it. And then there were some other moments here and there where I thought we actually turned over the ball in like really dangerous areas from high pressing and then just petered out to not even a shot sometimes, which that kind of reminded me of Ange, where it was like times when you have these really good breakaways or these really good transitional moments, or you win the ball in a really dangerous area and the team's all over the shop that you won the ball off of. and then it
Yeah.
like peters out for like a goal kick, or something like that. And you're just like, how on earth has that not led to an actual goal scoring chance? There was even that one from Q7 earlier where he was saying that there were 2 moments in particular where any clinical team would have dispatched those and we would have been 2-0 up, 3-0 up. So I'm in that boat. But let's move on to the second half, Eddie. You heard Mia, I think even Jerome, your compatriot, sort of seemed to say that it was a different story in the second half. Do you agree with them, or do you feel like we played well enough in the second half to have won that game still? Or you lie?
I'm a bit twisted on the second half. Like I said, after they scored that equalizer in 80th, it was all Sunderland after that moment. I think we were holding on for a draw for dear life then. I think when the change came was when he subbed on Polinia for Bentacore, and I think Bervo came on at the same time. I think that's the subs he made. I think once Polinia came on, it was obvious he was trying to hold on to the result for a 1-0 victory. I think that was the biggest mistake he could have made, especially in the Prem. Like Jerome said, you don't hold on to 1-0 leads, especially against teams of Sunderland's quality that has shown that they are capable of taking down big teams and going away and actually getting results at other oppositions. And we were very lucky in this game to not lose it. After that, they scored the equalizer.
Sorry. Can you hear me? Yeah, Eddie.
Yeah.
Hello. Can you hear me? Ed? Can people still hear me? Eddie fell asleep, so I don't remember the second half. Hello? Ed, can you hear me? I'm not sure what happened there, but oh, we got Eddie back.
I'm
Hey,
back.
it sounds like
It's
you cut off
crashed.
sort of midpoint there, and I was just making sure.
Yeah, it's crap. I don't know where I cut up, but yeah, we were just lucky in the end to get our way with a point. But I was really frustrated watching that because I was just like, just put the ball in the net already, please.
Yeah,
because
seriously.
I was just like, you have so many chances to put away this game, to bury this opposition, but you just don't take it. So this is one of the games where I'm not actually on Frank as much. Don't get me wrong, I have my problems with his subs he made and all that sort of stuff. I'm not on him as of that much, but this is one of the games where it's mostly on the players' fault for why we didn't win it and why we didn't take 3 points away from this result, which was a very winnable game. And I think the players should go back and look at themselves for this game. And I've been saying it for the past year, like our whole coaching staff needs to be whipped up and whipped apart. We need a whole new coaching staff because this team can't even pass 4 yards in front of them without losing the ball. The amount of times we lose the ball from a simple pass. It's frustrating watching this team at the moment.
I actually find it frustrating that last game was a game where I just can't really put that much blame on Thomas Frank because I'm not Thomas Frank's biggest fan, but I also have to be fair to a manager and like point that, okay, like this isn't the best example to maybe blame the manager, but there are plenty of other games where I would absolutely blame the manager for it, not going well enough for us. But that Sunderland game just feels like kind of a harsh stick to beat him with, if you ask me. But let's move things on to whether you stick or twist with the manager. Eddie, you've heard some of these conversations, right? Where it's like there are better managers, really good ones, in fact, available in the summer. Do you just stick it out with Frank and just wait until then? Or do you just sack him now and hope you can bring in someone for the here and now and then maybe make another change in the summer? Like, what would you do if you were Spurs? Would you sack Thomas Frank right now if you had the chance?
Look, the manager market is a bit of a slot machine at the moment, a bit of a gambling, because of how there is quite a few good managers on the market at the moment, but would they actually come to us? And would they come to Spurs and actually do well or underachieve like so many other previous managers have? Because we can have a manager come here, get the manager balance, see us out to the end of the season. Or we could have a manager come here and do the complete opposite and just absolutely derail our season even more. And we could just really end up middle of the table instead of fighting for the European places if the manager's choice doesn't go right. I think it's too late to sack Frank at the moment. It's January. You don't sack a manager in January unless you're Man United and Chelsea because they're insane. But you don't sack your manager in January. You back him to the end of the season at this point. That I don't see the point in sacking Frank. Yes, I don't agree that he's the manager to take us forward. I don't like him as a manager. I think we should sack him in the summer. But we shouldn't twist, because if we twist, we're just gonna probably end up fighting mid-table instead of European places. In my personal opinion, I can see that happening, depending on who we bring in. So yeah, I would keep Frank.
Yeah, I'm kind of torn on it myself. I actually think there are maybe okay enough managers to do better than what he's been doing right now to step in and fill in. But then at the same time, I don't want to miss out on potentially really good candidates in the summer. So I think you would have to look at someone you could bring in on more of a short-term type of basis, really, and see if you could just get the most out of, what you have for the rest of the season. But, it's a tough one, because then if the players don't believe in Thomas Frank really anymore, I say you just sack him, even if it's difficult to find the good candidate to fill in. But I do feel like Spurs have to consider who's available kind of later on in the summer, because there are some good ones, after the World Cup that will be available that I think we should be going after. And I would like to believe that we're still a big enough club to attract one of them. But I do agree with you that we are an absolute basket case of a football club that not every manager is going to be jumping for joy at coming and finding him.
According to rumors, Pep is leaving Man City at end of the season. So
crazy
could
turnover.
go get Pep.
Do you think
in January?
Do you think the departures of Enzo Maresca and Ruben Amorim do kind of put pressure on Thomas Frank? Because I think it's insane that they've kind of left, with the pressure and the disagreements that they've had with their football clubs and sort of their hierarchies. Like, does that almost give Spurs fans, do you think, even more reason to start asking questions of Thomas Frank and start sort of putting pressure on him?
Well, look, they didn't get sacked/resigned because they were playing badly. Don't get me wrong; they played some atrocious games this season, but they're still more points than us, and they've won more than us this season. But the reason they got sacked is because they had a falling out with their higher ups and or their hierarchy. Frank hasn't done that. Frank has done very smartly and has cut her up to this new ownership and is holding on to dear life with this ownership, because, like I think it was Jerome said, if Daniel Levy was still there, he would have been gone in 2 months. He would have been gone in 2 months. But this new ownership has come in, the new leadership has come in and has decided to stick with Frank. Vinay stuck with, I think Vinay was CEO at the time, stuck with Arteta at Arsenal, instead of sacking him when everyone wanted him sacked. So whether we'll recover and Frank can turn into Arteta, I doubt it. I just don't see it in him. But you never know. He could prove us completely wrong coming next season and absolutely do a belter. But it just all comes down to the January and summer transfer window. If we can actually go out and properly back Frank, properly back our next manager, if we don't stick with Frank, like get a proper forward, get a proper left winger, and go and buy some more fullbacks and more midfielders and sell off the deadwood, because this squad needs a rework. I completed after rework. I said at the beginning of the season, I had no hopes for this season at all. Even if Ian stayed, I had no hopes for the whole season. I thought we would have finished 10th, 8th at best, and we would have been maybe just gotten out of the group stages of the Champions League. That was my prediction for the season, and turns out we might not even get 10th, and we're going to hopefully make out the group stages, but we just are underperforming what I think we can achieve this season. And it's just not a good look on Frank. And I hope he can turn it around, because I hate losing. I hate watching us lose. I have Arsenal mates who text me each time we lose a game. and Liverpool Matey does the same. It's not a great time in my life at the moment with all the fans texting me about it. But yeah, hopefully Frank turns it around and we can get back to winning ways.
Yeah. Eddie, any final words that you want to bring up or anything I didn't get to let you have your say on before I let you go?
No, if we do sack Frank and we do bring in someone, whether he's here to the summer or he's here long term, give the next guy time to at least implement his system, get the players in. Don't just want them gone after 10 bad games like we did with Nuno, or Nuno playing bad games. Just like give the next guy time if we do change, because I can see us changing in the summer. And by all reports, it look like it might be Poch. So we'll see.
We'll see. Eddie, thanks for being patient. Thanks for coming on, sir. And I hopefully see you next time. And like I said with the others, hopefully Wednesday we're delirious, happy, clapping camp, and talking about Spurs winning the league after we beat Bournemouth. So
yeah,
thanks, Eddie.
Definitely,
thanks
man.
for coming on.
All right. Catch you next time.
See you next time. Alrighty. Big up to Eddie. And we're going to finish things off with, good to see you, Jacob Anderson, by the way. Really do appreciate your support as a member, my friend. We're going to finish things off with Corey, who looks like he's going to be the last guest of the evening. Corey, how you doing, sir?
Living in delusion right now with this club. Where do we go? Manager? Is it the manager? Is it the players? Is it the owners? It's a mixture of all three for me. There's probably 5 to 6 players in this starting so-called 30 players that are in this team that would keep. The rest I wouldn't cry if they were gone. People crying over Brennan Johnson leaving the club. The guy was average, had one trick to run into the box and tap it in. But then we've made our thing every season for the last 3 years of selling our top goal scorers, haven't we? So if Richarlison carries on, we might be lucky to get rid of him. So
I think we're also
I'm just sat here like,
I think we're being generous with the top goal scorer thing, because it's like Kane and Son put up incredible numbers as like top goal scorers.
Oh,
But it's
yeah.
like Brennan Johnson at the end of the day, he was like 17th in the league or something when it came to like top goal scorers. Like he wasn't necessarily like the top goal scorers of the Premier League like last season. He was a top goal scorer for Spurs, but he wasn't like up there with the very best in the league, if you get what I mean.
no, he
So
wasn't.
that's
I
where I'm
mean,
also
in the
kind
league,
of-
I think, what did he score? 11 in the league and then 8 in other competitions or something silly like that. So when you see people online, Twitter, Facebook, stuff like that, oh, why are we selling him for? He's the only top goal scorer we have, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, do these players not realize what a good player is anymore? The guy is very average at best, and gassing him up. Then we're gassing up players like Tell and Odebert, gassing up players like Gray and Bergvall and Sarr. For Sarr, we've done it for the last 5 years. He's going to come good. He's going to come good. He's going to come good. And we just kept on kicking the can down with him as well. It's just like, it's now 5 years in, and I'm still not really seeing much from Sarr. I don't see much coming from Bergvall as well. I mean, I think he's in the wrong sport. He should be taken up as a middle linebacker in the NFL if he wants to run in and tackle people so hard. Chuck him in as middle linebacker. You've got someone that can run for days there and put in a good tackle on a wide receiver or taking out a quarterback. That's why I'm looking at Bergvall, and I was sitting here like, we played Ben Davis. It was weird seeing him play because he actually played pretty decently.
Yeah,
yesterday.
he played well. He's probably man of the match. Yeah.
And I'm like sitting there thinking, maybe I've been a bit harsh on Ben, but like, it's one match and half of Sunderland's team are out at AFCON. So how we couldn't beat Sunderland light when all their players are normally there. That game would have been different if AFCON wasn't every year. We would have got murdered yesterday by those players that are out on AFCON at the moment, especially the way our midfield's a joke. Our forward line, apart from Kudus and Savvy, are terrible. Kula Moani doesn't want to be here, so he doesn't really want to play properly. You've got people, like I said, gassing up Bergvall and Tell and Odebert, and I'm like, you're gassing up Odebert for what? A 20-minute cameo versus Man United when they were down to 10 men and couldn't make a substitute. And then I see people going, oh, bring back Ange. Why? His football was just as bad as Frank's is, and you want to bring a guy back that nearly got us relegated.
Well, I think
I'm sitting there like he finished on the same amount of points as the manager, he who shall not be named, from all those years ago, 38 points and stayed up. That guy's that, 38 points stayed up. And I'm like, why do you want to bring him back just because he won a trophy?
Well, at this stage, though, it almost looks like Thomas Frank is not too much better than even Christian Gross in terms of the, actual points tally.
Yeah, he who shall not be named.
Yeah. I just think
Christian Gross.
I just think with Ange, though, I mean, you can disagree with me on this whether you want, Corey, but I do feel like as a Spurs manager in your first season, I think you have to do one or the other. I think you have to deliver good attacking football, something that fans can be excited to watch, even if maybe the results aren't necessarily there. They'll believe that maybe at some point it will turn around. Or you have to be in the camp like a Conte or Mourinho, where even if the style of play is pretty ugly to watch, you're sitting fourth, fifth at the top of the league, and you're just churning out results, even if it's not that pretty. Thomas Frank is doing neither. He's not getting results, and the football is damn awful to watch. So I just think that's why there's probably so much disdain for the guy, why he's getting so much heat from the fan base, because I think you have to deliver one or the other, even in your first season, if you ask me.
I mean, we're trying to deliver with some very, very average players. We can't deny it. I mean, teams down the years I've looked at, we've had the Modrics, the Bales, the Dembeles, we've had Walker, Rose. Going down those lines of 10 years ago, compare that to what we have now. Do any of this lot, apart from Van der Ven, possibly Romero, make it in those sort of like greatest players and this team's best team that we had for all that time? No.
Then I see. Like, you don't think Pedro Porro's a good player. You don't think the Destiny Udogis, Jed Spence. Jed Spence plays for the England national team. You have Kolo Muani, who plays for the French national team. Like, I feel like sometimes when people say
where I come with Porro, I still feel like Porro's played out of position. I think we should chuck him where Kudus is. Kudus out on the right, not on the left, cutting in on his right foot would be very dangerous for him. And he's ambidextrous as well. He can use both feet, and have Xavi in between them two. Get Porro as an attacker. He can't defend for the life of him. Then you can really bring balance by putting Spence at right back where he's meant to play, and Destiny I don't really rate anyway. The guy he's literally becoming a new Darren Anderton. He comes in for 3 matches and he's disappeared for 3 months. And I love Darren Anderton. Don't get me wrong, the guy was incredible, but I can't sit here and watch a bunch of players pick up wages when they're constantly injured anymore. I just can't do it. Get rid of all these players that are always dragging us down with injuries. I love Matters to the life of me, but the guy's out more than what he is playing as a professional football player. I'm sitting there looking at Kulu. I mean, look, I think Kulu's very average. He has a spell of like 5 to 10 games where he's incredible, and then he goes missing for the rest of the year. So that's another player. I love him to bits, but I just feel like it's time we need to move on from those kind of players that have been very purple patch, and then they go missing and then go wayward for 10, 15 games in the season. I just can't sit here as a fan watching very average players anymore. I'd probably get more enjoyment watching Brighton.
Do you think a manager could get more out of these very average players that you're sort of talking about? I kind of disagree with you, but it is your time. Do you think another manager could get more out of
I
these
honestly
guys?
feel with these players, most of them have met their ceiling. They really have. Richarlison can't hold up a ball. Ball bounces off him more than anything. You've got Dominic, one good season, Solanke, that both Chelsea and Liverpool shafted out their team. So I'm sat here like he had one good season with Bournemouth, and that was it. His career's been plotted all around Europe in different teams and really didn't do much in Holland. So I sit here and I'm like, we need better up front. It's all well and good that Frank has come in and made us look more solid at the back. But what good is our backline if our attackers aren't meeting the same levels as Van der Ven and Romero? These two players have ambition and want to be winning things with this club. But if this ownership doesn't start delivering better quality for them to play with, they'll walk. There's been links to VDV going to Madrid. Oh man, if he goes to Madrid, that'll break my heart, because he's the only reason now why I'm watching Tottenham. Back in the day, I used to watch for goalkeepers, man. I'm a massive advocate for goalkeepers. I will watch goalkeepers all day long on the pitch if I have to. But even Vicario is not doing it for me anymore, and I used to be his biggest defender.
Yeah, I was a big defender of Vicario until this season. I do feel like he has to answer some of the pressure that's been on him. He's been very shaky. He's made more mistakes this season under Frank than I feel like he ever did under Ange and the 2 seasons he had under Ange, if you ask me, which I think is kind of crazy because against Ange, you would say he was left more vulnerable than he is under Frank. But under Frank, he's making more mistakes, which I can't really wrap my head around. Is there any final things you wanted to get off your chest, Corey, before we end the show?
With the stick and twist at the moment, I'm sitting in between the middle of them. I wouldn't be upset if they sacked Ange. Sorry, Ange, Frank. And I wouldn't be upset if we kept him till the end of the season, because we bring in someone now after sacking a manager, and then bring in another manager, and you'll want money to spend in January, and then what we're going to do? End of the year, sorry, mate, we're actually going to go out and get this guy. So do we waste more money on a new guy coming in, but then we have to pay off Frank and his coaching staff and everything else that he brought into the club? So we have to pay all that lot off, and then more money comes out of the coffers at the club by sacking the guy. I mean, we spent just under 20 million bringing Frank and his entourage here to the club, didn't we? So we sacked Ange, brought in Frank and his backroom staff in a summer where everything was pretty much changing right before our eyes. You know, all of us were protesting to get Levy out. I still feel like it's on all 3 parts of this ownership, not just Levy. I'm now starting to feel like, could Levy have been the scapegoat in all this? They just got rid of him as quickly as they could just to appease the fans, to make them happy. As much as I hated the guy, I'm starting to feel like he's been made the scapegoat.
Yeah, sometimes that trigger impulse by Levy was to our benefit, and he was ruthless. He never backed any managers, but he was ruthless with the managers, which I feel like maybe we could use with right now. Jacob Anderson saying the real problem is our recruitment. We have brought the wrong players in for years. Now we get 1 good player for every 5 that we sign. I saw some stat about Johan Lange's expenditure during this time, Jacob Anderson, and like he's signed some promising players, but like none of them, really almost none of them, when Johan Lange was officially brought into the club, are like real proven, you know, like world beater type players, you know, whereas that's where I'm amazed that people like Alistair Gold and whatnot sort of like throw Parachichi under the bus, when Johan Lange has been here similar amount of time to what Parachichi was in charge. And he's just not had anyone that you could say he's brought in that has like completely revolutionized the team or anything like that. But
I mean, Villa were happy to see him go, weren't they? So it says a lot when your main competitor are happy to see a guy go. You'll got to be sitting there questioning as fans. They're like, why were they happy to see him go? And I can actually sit here and see players that he's brought in. Some of them are okay, but they're not to the level that we're used to as fans. You know, we're used to seeing Bale, Modric, Dembele. You know, I know it's players of the past, but we're used to seeing those exciting players. We're looking to see the next Ginola come through. You know, we're looking for the next Teddy Sheringham. I would kill to have a 1 forward out of these 2 that had half of what Sheringham had.
Yeah, I know what you mean, man. But Corey,
I've got to sit here and question everything. All right, bud. Have a good day.
I appreciate you, man. Thanks for coming on. We'll see you next time.
Peace.
Big up to Corey, everybody. Thanks for coming on, everybody. All the members of the channel. We will see you all tomorrow for hopefully a panel show. And then if Dave's well enough, maybe a members preview for you guys for our game against Bournemouth. And then, of course, we have to get back into it on Wednesday against Bournemouth, another game. The games are coming thick and fast, which is a good thing. You know, it kind of sucks to have to talk about a team with, you know, these terrible sort of results, and you don't have another game that you can maybe, you know, make up for, you know, down the road. It's nice, actually, in my opinion, to be playing games on a more consistent basis, you know, at least at this point in time. But hopefully see you all tomorrow, everybody. Do have a good rest of your evenings. Thank you for supporting the channel, and come on, you Spurs, as always. See you next time, everybody.